My name's Tony Kovacevich. I'm a petroleum engineer with 35 years experience. 24 years ago we moved here to Plain Township and raised our family. And I worked on the exploration and production side for 20 years, and then the last 15 I've been in the pipeline business. And I'd like to make a few comments before I ask the question. Sitting from the sidelines, watching all this unfold, there seems to be a lot of disinformation that's out there about hydraulic fracturing and the drilling process. So I just want to make a couple comments. This isn't new by any stretch of the imagination. There's been over 50,000 wells drilled and fractured in the state of Ohio since fracturing since it was first invented approximately 60 years ago. And there's 2,900 producing wells in Stark County, most of which have been fractured. And it's been implied that there's widespread devastation caused by these operations. And my comment is, if there was, then there ought to be evidence of that readily available, either through the Division of Oil and Gas or other means. And I'm specifically speaking about what happens here in Ohio, not West Virginia, Pennsylvania, or New York. I'd also like to point out, I keep hearing the word toxic soup, toxins thrown out. And according to Webster, a toxin is a poison produced by a microorganism and causing certain diseases, or any poison secreted by plants or animals. The chemicals that are used in the hydraulic fracturing process, for the most part, it's water, sand, guar gum, which is a byproduct. It's manufactured from a plant. And then there's alcohol, surfactants, soaps. These aren't biotoxins, folks. These are chemicals. Some are flammable, some are corrosive. But that's why the trucks are placarded as such, to let you know, to let everyone know what are in those vehicles. So I just thank you for your patience and let me make that comment. One thing I'd like you to comment on is the peer review that our industry has gone through recently. What is the peer review? It's not only of our industry, but it's also of the existing oil and gas regulations. If you could comment on that, please.
I'll let Rick Simmers handle that. He's been involved with the peer review process for only about 25 years. It's a national group of environmental organizations, state regulatory organizations, and interested parties that go into different oil and gas regulatory states and do reviews of their program. We've undergone 3 reviews at this point in time. One in 1995, one in 2000, or 2005, and then one here in 2010. And Rick's been involved in those processes throughout the country and in Ohio during that time frame. And then this past year, our peer review process involved hydraulic fracturing. So, Rick?
The peer review process was created some 25 to 30 years ago on a national level. When the peer review was originally created, the governors from the oil and gas producing states, through an organization of governors called the Interstate Oil and Gas Compact Commission, got together and decided to come up with a process whereby they could take federal, state officials from different states, come up with a standardized set of conditions, questions, and approaches to oil and gas regulation to try to improve programs that underwent such a review. As part of the review, usually a representative from the U.S. Department of Energy would be involved in the review, the U.S. EPA, generally a national environmental group, usually one or more other state regulatory programs, oil and gas programs, and then oftentimes an industry representative, and then observers, which oftentimes were members of the community. In '95, we underwent our first review, and overall had a very favorable review. As this review process occurs, the team that comes in and interviews you, the federal people, the other state people from states such as Pennsylvania, Oklahoma, Texas, wherever they might be, they come in, they interview you against a standardized set of questions that you respond to before they come in state. You give them your responses, they come in state, and you give more detailed responses to their questions. The first review was pretty favorable. they do come up with recommendations or suggestions for you to improve your program, and then you work on those improvements as they apply to your program until your next review. So we went through a follow-up review in 2005. In the follow-up review, what they do is come back, again, they send federal officials, state officials, environmental people, and so forth, and they come in and they review how well you achieve certain of their recommendations. And we don't always follow, none of the states follow all the recommendations that come through the review because they're based on a national standard, and occasionally the recommendation doesn't apply to a specific state. So when we had the 2005 follow-up review, it was primarily on how well did we address the follow-up or the recommendations. Most recently, last fall, we had a more specific review. It's a hydrofrac review in Senate Bill 165, which again became effective on June 30th of last year. They came in, there was a representative, the chief of the Division of Oil and Gas from Oklahoma, and an environmental representative from Louisiana, and a person that represented the IPAA or an industry group, and then there were in-state observers as well. They reviewed our frac regulations as they were written under the new law. And overall, we got a very favorable review. That review is going to be publicly available in probably a couple of weeks. They're finalizing the printed version of it right now. And then if you're interested in seeing that review, we'll have it posted electronically on our website. And then the review is also going to be available in limited quantities of the printed version. Thanks.